A few years ago, while I was in the university, I find myself in a gathering of 80 students. We were deciding where our excursion was going to take place. One person suggested a location and almost everyone agreed with it, but I didn't. I thought there was a better option and I had my reasons. But standing up in front of 80 people to disagree, that terrified me. A voice in my head kept saying, "Keep quiet, don't embarrass yourself. Everyone else agrees." Then someone asked, "Does anyone have something to say?" I raised my hand, but inside I was shaking. I stood up and said, "I don't think this is the best location." Then I explained why. To my surprise, people listened. They considered my reasons. And in the end, my suggestion was accepted. That moment taught me something I will never forget. Confidence didn't show up before I spoke. It showed up because I spoke. If I had waited to feel fearless, I would have stayed silent, and that moment would have never come. And I would have missed the opportunity to make a difference. That's when I realized that confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act while fear is still sitting beside you. Turns out I'm not the only one who learns that the hard way. Nelson Mandela once said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Eleanor Roosevelt famously encouraged people to do one thing every day that scares them, a reminder that courage grows when we stop avoiding what frightens us. Maya Angelou believed courage was the most important virtue because without it, you can't constantly practice any virtue. So if you've been waiting to feel confident before applying the job, shooting the video, speaking your mind, sharing your opinion, setting the boundary, speaking up in the meeting, or chasing the dream, you've been waiting for the wrong thing, because confidence doesn't come first. Action does. Today, let's look at 7 things confident people do differently. They act before the fear leaves, not after. Confidence isn't calm. It isn't silence in your body. It isn't waiting until your heart stops racing. It's doing the scary thing with shaking hands. Most people believe they will act once they feel confident, but confidence is usually the reward, not the requirement. The fear doesn't disappear first. It simply gets quieter every time you prove to yourself that you can survive what once terrified you. Stop asking, "What if it goes wrong?" That question never ends. There's always another what if. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if they reject me? What if I'm not good enough? Confident people replace all of those questions with one. What happens if I don't? What happens if I don't speak? What happens if I never apply? What happens if I spend another 5 years waiting? Usually, the cost of doing nothing is much greater than the risk of trying. They allow themselves to be beginners. Nobody starts out amazing. Every expert was once inexperienced. Every confident speaker once stumbled over their words. Every successful business owner once made mistakes. Confident people understand that being bad at something isn't embarrassing. It's the price of being good at it. You can either protect your image or build your future. You rarely get both. They stop giving fear a microphone. Fear loves an audience. Every time you say, "I'm so nervous, I don't think I can do this, I'm probably going to mess things up," you're rehearsing fear. Confident people still get nervous. They simply stop letting fear become the loudest voice in the room. Instead of feeding fear with words, they feed action with movement. They build evidence instead of waiting for motivation. People often think confidence is positive thinking. It isn't. Confidence is evidence. It's remembering the last time you faced something difficult and survived. It's remembering that presentation you thought you ruined, that interview you almost cancelled, and that conversation you didn't want to have. And yet, you handled it. Every difficult thing you do becomes another receipt that says, "I have done hard things before, I can do hard things again." That's how real confidence grows. They speak even when someone had already said it. Don't become invisible because you are afraid of repeating someone else's point. If your opinion is similar, say it anyway. Your voice matters, not because it's always different, but because it's yours. Every time you choose silence because you're afraid of being judged, fear wins. Every time you speak anyway, confidence grows. Eventually, hearing your own voice in the room stop feeling frightening. Before you say a single word, your body is already speaking. Stand tall. Relax your shoulders. Look people in the eyes. Stop fidgeting. Stop shrinking yourself to make other people comfortable. Presence isn't about being loud. It's about being grounded. And one of the strongest signs of confidence is something many people overlook. Listening. Confident people don't interrupt to prove they're intelligent. They listen carefully. They speak thoroughly. And when they do speak, people pay attention. Nelson Mandela, Eleanor Roosevelt, Maya Angelou, none of them were describing fearless people. They were describing people who chose courage. People who acted while fear was still whispering in their ears. That's what confidence really is. Not waiting until you're ready. Not waiting until you're fearless. Not waiting until you're certain. Just taking the next step.